In this video, I'm going to talk about the second and third slide presentations on Descartes' first meditation. So this one we're looking at right now, slide presentation number 2, is on the senses and dreams. And here what Descartes is doing is he's starting with the senses. He's saying, look, a lot of our previous beliefs are based upon sensory experiences, right? I see a blue sky, and so I believe that the sky exists and the sky is blue, right? And that's all dependent upon my sensory experiences and whether they are correct or not, whether they are reliable or not. And what Descartes is pointing out is that in the past, our senses have deceived us. Just think of any optical or auditory illusion that you've experienced. You thought something looked blue, when in fact it was actually green. That's a case where your senses have deceived you. And since the senses have deceived you in the past, they might be doing so right now. This means that your beliefs based upon the senses are not indubitable. It means they can be doubted. And since they can be doubted, what should we do? We should suspend judgment about all of the beliefs based upon our senses. That's a lot of beliefs. Okay, now you might think, no, I can correct this. I know that sometimes my color judgments are wrong, so I'll be more careful and I'll make correct judgments. And that leads to dreams. And here it's very simple. Descartes just wants to point out that sometimes we have dreams, and in our dreams we have experiences that seem to match up to reality when in fact they don't. Now you might think, well, that's true of some dreams, right? But lots of times I can tell when something's a dream. Well, the problem is that we do have dreams that seem very real, dreams about normal everyday things. And the problem is, how are you going to tell the difference between waking life and a dream? And that, Descartes thinks, we can't really determine. We can't say, oh, I know this is a dream, because if it's a dream that seems real, then it might be real. And it also means that waking life right now might actually be a dream. How do I know I'm not simply dreaming right now? Descartes wants to say I don't. How do you know that you're not dreaming right now? Descartes wants to say you don't. And since you can't tell the difference between waking life and dreaming, you can't rely on your senses to give you truth about reality. And so we need to suspend judgment about all the beliefs based upon our senses. All right, let's go to, Let's go to the third slide presentation titled God and Mathematics. And maybe if we can't rely on our senses, we can rely upon other ways of getting knowledge. And one area that we seem to have knowledge is knowledge about mathematics. And Descartes' basic idea here is that even if I'm dreaming right now, I'm still having lots of ideas, and the ideas have some content. And even if the objects in my dreams aren't real, say I'm dreaming of a unicorn or something like that, the unicorn still has shape and size and all of that. And so we should be able to analyze those imaginary objects, analyze them in mathematical terms. They should be quantifiable, they should have shapes, and so on. And so it seems that something is real. Even if the unicorn that I'm dreaming of is not real, there's something that's real. I can talk about shape and number and mathematical objects. And Descartes thinks these mathematical objects are in some sense real, right? We can say true things about shapes and numbers, and they seem to be real. And so can we use mathematical knowledge as a foundation for truth? Now, let me read this quote. Here's what he says. So it seems reasonable to conclude that physics, astronomy, medicine, and all other sciences dealing with things that have complex structures are doubtful. So these are things to deal with bodies. We don't even know if bodies exist because the senses could be wrong. We could be dreaming. Maybe there aren't any bodies. So we can't say that physics, astronomy, medicine, biology, chemistry are the foundation for knowledge, because they can be sciences that are about things that don't actually exist. Continuing the quote, while arithmetic, geometry, and other studies of the simplest and most general things, numbers and shapes, whether they really exist in nature or not, contain something certain and indubitable. For whether I am awake or asleep, 2 plus 3 makes 5, and the square has only 4 sides. It seems impossible to suspect that such obvious truths might be false. Even if we're dreaming the world around us, it seems that 2 and 3 are going to be 5, and that all squares have 4 sides. Those seem like they have to be true. We can't doubt those, he's saying. And so that could be a foundation for knowledge. But there's an objection to this view. There's a problem. It has to do with the idea of God. Now, Descartes here is not saying that God exists or doesn't exist. He's just saying, I have an idea. I have an idea of God. I have an idea of an omnipotent being, of a being that's all-powerful. And it seems that such a being could do what? Such a being could make us believe that 2 and 2 is 4, when in fact 2 and 2 is 5. Or believe that 2 and 3 is 5, when 2 and 3 is actually 6. That's the problem. And we can see this problem in this quotation. Anyway, I sometimes think that others go wrong even when they think they have the most perfect knowledge. So how do I know that I myself don't go wrong every time I add 2 and 3 or count the sides of a square? Now, we've experienced ourselves, and we certainly have seen other people have this experience, where we think we're certain about something, something has to be true, right? And it turns out to be false. I know I put my keys on the table, and you go and look and they're not there. So that sense of certainty, that psychological sense of certainty, doesn't tell us anything. We need logical certainty. We need something that's indubitable, that can't be doubted. And what Descartes is saying is that even your belief that 2 and 3 is 5 is not indubitable. You can doubt it because you can start to think that maybe there is a God who is omnipotent, who's doing what? Making you think that 2 and 3 and 5 when in fact it is 6. Is that possible? Yes, Descartes thinks it's possible. Even if it's a small possibility, it means we have to do what with our mathematical knowledge? We have to suspend judgment about all of our mathematical knowledge. We cannot use it as a foundation for truth. Now, someone might object to this objection by saying, hey, maybe God is good, so God wouldn't deceive you. And all Descartes points out here is that, well, even if we think that God is good, we see that we have been deceived before. Just think of your sensory deceptions. And so if we have been deceived before, right, by God, then it's possible God is deceiving us right now or all the time. And so because it seems that God is possible, an omnipotent being is possible, we can't rely upon mathematical knowledge.